Hello, everyone, and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you're tuning in from, wherever you're listening from. Hello, welcome. Nice to see you. Um, if you're listening on the vodcast, podcast, VOD on YouTube, hello to you too. Whatever day it is, I hope you're having a good one. This episode 10, is about wrestling. Is about pretty much my favorite era in wrestling, which is by far and away no contest. It is the Attitude Era. I absolutely loved that era. Just for those of you that like factual pieces of information, the Attitude Era for WWE, it says here, ran from the 9th of November 1997 until May 6th, 2002. Um, in my opinion, the greatest era of all time. You had so many decent rivalries, so many characters of all different shapes and sizes, ones that you liked, ones that you hated, ones that you loved, and others that you loathed. I had my favorites. And I'd play them on wrestling games. It was so cool. I don't know about you and your parents though, but my parents don't condone violence, so I could never actually watch the WWF at home. I'd have to sneak away, and Eddie'd have to go round somebody else's house to watch the WWF at the time, or I'd have to sneak up early mornings on a Saturday morning to catch the sort of PG version of the WWF Raw is War that happened on Friday nights, the, the previous night. But with that Saturday morning PG version of the WWE, you didn't get to see any of the hits. You didn't get to see any of the big chairs being smacked over heads and thrown into um, sort of the commentary tables. You never got to see any of that stuff. The cameras would always point to the crowd and you'd see and hear their reactions, but you'd never see any of the juicy stuff. It's quite weird, though, that having a sheltered childhood from physical sports like boxing and so on, because they didn't condone violence, it was quite weird that I'm a big boxing fan now and I love kickboxing and UFC and things like that. Um, I guess in a way that when you're denied something when you're younger, like for instance, your parents don't let you do something, it makes you want to do it more, doesn't it? So not being able to watch the WWE, WWF at the time, made me want to watch it more. In my opinion, though, the Attitude Era was without a doubt the best era in wrestling, in my opinion. Before that was the New Generation Era, which had people like Hulk Hogan, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Rick Martel, Brian Blair, Dan Spivey, Razor Ramon, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret the Hitman Hart, Diesel, Lex Luger, Yokozuna, Owen Hart, Tatanka, um, and the names go on and on and on. You had the Ultimate Warrior sort of coming to the end of his career during there. Um, Hulk Hogan coming to the end of his career, I suppose you could say. And then you fast forward to the Attitude Era, and the people that you had there: Stone Cold Steve Austin, you had The Rock, Mick Foley, Triple H, China, The Undertaker, Kane, Kurt Angle, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, X Pac, um, loads. Loads and loads of characters. And Kurt Angle, I'm missing loads. And what I really liked about the Attitude Era was the storytelling, the rivalries. And there were some legendary rivalries. Triple H, arguably one of the best wrestlers to ever grace the game, even though I don't like him. I absolutely don't like Triple H. I don't like him because he'd win. And he'd beat the people that I liked, such as Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Not all of the time, but most of the time, Triple H would win. And I just loved the way that they introduced the wrestlers with the Titantron and the music, and it would introduce the wrestler, and the crowd would pop and cheer, and and some of the returns that they had too. When, say, a wrestler was out injured for a good while, they would reintroduce the wrestler by playing their music. And I can remember when Stone Cold Steve Austin returned from like knee surgery and things like that. If you notice with Stone Cold, he always had his legs in braces to support his knees. Could you imagine, though, how painful that would be? My knees are knackered, and I don't even live an active lifestyle. Maybe that's why they're knackered. Lack of use, right? But his legs were... God, he had big contraptions running up and down the side of his legs. But let's have a look. So the Attitude Era, as I said, ran from November the 9th, 1997 to May the 6th, 2002. Back when it was called the WWF. And then it changed, mid-2000 or something like that, after they lost the some case to with the Wildlife Fund, World Wildlife Fund, or whatever it's a WWF. It says here, the Attitude Era was a term used by the World Wrestling Federation to describe the company's programming during the 1990s and early 2000s. It started during Monday Night Wars, a period in which WWF's Monday Night Raw, went head-to-head with World Championships Wrestling WCW Monday Nitro, in battle for the Nielsen ratings each week from 1995 to 2001. WWF's programming, branded as WWF Attitude from 1997 to 2002, featured adult-orientated content, which included an increase in the level of depicted violence, profanity, and sexual content. This era was part of a wider surge in the popularity of professional wrestling in the United States and Canada, as television ratings and pay-per-views for the WWF and its rival promotions saw record highs. The Attitude Era marked the rise of many WWF male singles wrestlers, including Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, Kane, and Mick Foley in various personas. The Steve Austin-Vince McMahon feud was one of the longest-running rivalries of the era. The WWF Women's Championship, which lay dormant since 1995, was reactivated in 1998. While most of the company's female talent, such as Sable, Sunny, Stacy Keibler, during this time period were marketed as sex symbols and often booked in sexually provocative gimmick matches, such as bra and panty matches and bikini matches. In an effort to draw more male viewership, prominent female stars such as Chyna, Lita, and Trish Stratus were presented as legitimate wrestlers in legitimate wrestling matches. Chyna was a big woman. I'm not ashamed to admit that she wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but she was a supreme, impressive woman. Impressive woman. Lifted a lot. Trained hard. Lita and Trish were more, sort of stereotypical, I guess you could say. It was also a resurgence of tag team wrestling, namely the Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys, and Edge and Christian, who were featured in several destructive physical and stunt-filled tables, ladders, and chairs matches during this era. Distinguished stables established in this era, such as Degeneration X, Nation of Domination, The Corporation, the Ministry of Darkness, the Corporate Ministry, and the Brood, developed major rivalries among each other. The Hardcore Championship was established in 1998, and this chaotic division involved no disqualification, falls count anywhere matches that would start and then would be taken outside the ring with blunt weapons involved. They were my favourite matches. No holds barred, no disqualifications, falls anywhere, no countouts. They were the best. When those matches were announced, I was like, we're in for a treat. We're in for a treat. God, I loved it. I used to get so excited when that was announced, and you knew that as soon as the action spilled out of the ring, it was going to get bloody, and they would lift up the side of the ring apron, go underneath, and pull out a chair, or pull out something wrapped in barbed wire, or a table, and then it got even better when the action would go into the audience. It would go into the spectators, and then it would spill over to the outer of the ring, to the outer fringes of the arena, and they'd go up the ramp towards the Titantron, and then they'd start fighting on the Titantron and throwing each other over the edges, and they'd spill through the Titantron where the intros were played, through the doors, out into the outside of the arena. The cameras would be following. Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler and Jim Ross would still keep commentating, and they would fight out there for a while, and it would spill out into the parking lot, and then allies from whoever's fighting would come and interfere and, blindside attack, and it used to be so much fun. And the only reason why that fun died for me was because I reached an age where I noticed more and more how fake it was. And I don't mean to say quote unquote fake, as in nothing they did was ever dangerous or risky, because of course it was. But the risk of serious injury was obviously they don't want that to happen. So a lot of it was carefully orchestrated, choreographed, planned. The winners were decided beforehand, which was another thing that I didn't really like. And the wrestlers would talk to each other in the ring and get each other mentally prepared for what was about to come. Which makes total sense if it's an entertainment business and you want to entertain the crowd. So much easier when the other wrestler knows what's coming. I'm going to DDT you now. Okay. Well, bam. I just didn't like... It lost its appeal when I started to realise just how fake it was, and that they weren't really colliding with bollards and ring posts, and headbutts weren't hitting, and the slaps were, and the punches and everything were just to make noise rather than injure. And this coming from someone that was sheltered from physical, violent TV shows, I wanted more violence. So after I reached about 14, 15, maybe a bit older, I stopped watching because I couldn't separate myself from the fakeness. Now, of course, I wouldn't go up to a wrestler and say, "Oh, wrestling's fake," because that would just make them angry. It's not fake in a sense that what they are doing, jumping around, etc., isn't real. It's just that I couldn't settle with it. Just couldn't. It used to wind me up watching them not hit things. That's why wrestling died for me. I still have friends that love wrestling today and still watch it, and they're in their 30s, and that's awesome. Like the fun didn't die for them, but it did for me, and it died sort of to the tail end of the Attitude Era. Started dying. I think early 2000s, like early 2000, like maybe even the year 2000 was probably the best wrestling I've ever seen. The feuds between Triple H and Mick Foley, where Mick Foley would challenge Triple H to a match, but he would agree to fight only if Triple H put his title on the line. And Triple H was said, "I'm only going to fight you if you put your career on the line." And Mick Foley was like, "Oh yeah, I'll only fight you if you agree to fight me in a Hell in a Cell match as Cactus Jack." And Triple H was visibly scared, and it's great acting. No, I wouldn't say it's like Hollywood A-lister acting, but it was great acting. And that was one of the best, I was about to say boxing, the best wrestling matches I've ever seen. Triple H versus Cactus Jack, Hell in a Cell. Was that No Way Out? Cactus Jack versus Triple H, Hell in a Cell. It was No Way Out. Yeah. Just in somewhere in the back of my memory, in my subconscious, it just knew No Way Out. No Way Out. Oh, and Jim Ross calling it. Just No Way Out. 2000. You're welcome. Like Jim Ross would say something along the lines of, "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Madison Square Garden. Thank you for welcoming the WWE, WWF into your homes this evening. We're live at Madison Square Gardens for No Way Out." And then just the way they built it up. Like, American commentators are fantastic for commentating on complete trash. Like, honestly, they could make anything entertaining. Like paint drying. They could legitimately make paint drying an entertaining spectator sport just from the commentary. But the commentary, the duo between Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler, Jerry the King Lawler used to annoy me, but Jim Ross never, ever, ever annoyed me. Do you know he was fired after he had his first Bell's palsy attack? Fired. Vince McMahon fired him because of his disability. Fired him. Then Vince McMahon started to do the commentary. Then Vince McMahon was being charged, or at least had some dealings with the police and some active case going on, so he couldn't commentate anymore. There was a vacancy. And then they rehired him afterwards. Like, why would you fire someone after they have a Bell's palsy attack? He can still talk and do his job. He's just not. His part of his face was paralyzed. I couldn't believe when I heard that happened to him. We go on to Jim Ross, his page here, and we search for Bells. Ross was fired on February 11th, 1994, 2 weeks after suffering his first attack of Bell's palsy. As stated by Ross on September 23rd, 1996, in an episode of Raw. He subsequently became an announcer for Smoky Mountain Wrestling and the NFL's Atlanta Falcons, the second time he was the Falcons announcer. Ross was reunited with former NWA WCW announcer Bob Caudle. Promotion was owned by a long-time NWA manager, blah, blah, blah. it says here, when Vince McMahon was indicted by the United States federal government, no small thing, in 1994, he was unable to continue commentating on WWF's Monday Night Raw. After a few weeks of Gorilla Monsoon on play-by-play, the WWF rehired Ross to fill McMahon alongside Macho Man Randy Savage throughout that summer. So, after McMahon was acquitted, Ross was let go by the WWF for leaking inside information to journalists. Ross briefly returned to Smoky Mountain Wrestling. The WWF rehired him once again in 1994, relegated to the syndicated WWF program for the majority of the next 2 years. Ross rejoined the primary announce team in the summer of 1996. Ross turned heel in WWF storylines for the first time in his career. I think I remember that. So he leaked information to reporters, or maybe he's just an honest and open kind of guy and said a few things that he perhaps shouldn't have. We don't know. But to fire him, Vince McMahon is obviously, perhaps trying to hide something. But without a shadow of a doubt, Ross, in my opinion, was the best WWF and WWE announcer of all time. Play-by-play commentator, incredible. You see, you've got Jerry the King Lawler to the left, and Jim Ross to the right. Great duo. Not a fan of Jerry Lawler myself, but I'd listen just because of Ross. Incredible. Jim Ross was later inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And when that happened, he had a lot of wrestling stars come to his side and say a lot of lovely things about him. I love the guy. Wrestling would not be the same without him, in my opinion, and that's probably one of the reasons why I stopped watching as well. The fact that I couldn't shake the fact that everything was fake, and that JR stopped commentating as often. It just didn't have the same vibe. It definitely didn't have the same vibe as WWF No Way Out Triple H versus Cactus Jack in a WWF title championship match, where not only was Triple H's title on the line, but Mick Foley's career was on the line, and he was going to be fired if he lost. And that added tension. Of course, spoiler alert, Mick Foley lost. So, but still awesome. Just absolutely awesome. Let's have a look at some other rivalries here. So we look at the Attitude Era rivalries. Triple H versus The Rock, yeah, considered one of the bitterest rivalries of this era. Triple H and The Rock crossed each other many times until at SummerSlam 1998, when Triple H defeated The Rock for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. Without a doubt, Triple H was a good wrestler. You've got to have a heel that wins, otherwise nobody will want to be heel. Nobody will want to be the baddie, to play the baddie. I think most people would agree, though, that being a baddie allows you to do whatever you like, and you have freedom of movement. Now, the thing that came after the Attitude Era was called the Ruthless Aggression Era. Doesn't sound as good, does it? I was born and raised on the Attitude Era, and that will forever be in my head. Like, the memories of the matches, the tables, ladders, and chairs match between the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, and Edge and Christian. That was without a doubt one of the best matches I've ever seen. Tables, ladders, and chairs match. Dudley Boys. Here we are. It's got here. The Hardy Boys had plenty of classic matches in the WWE during their 5-year run. So they did from 1998-02 and then 06-07. Popular matches for tag team, including but not limited to the Tables, Ladders, and Chairs match. That was so good. When that was first introduced, I was just a TLC match. WWE. When was this match? Full length Raw, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. No, this is not the one. Dudley Boys. Edge and Christian. I believe Edge and Christian won. Edge and Christian versus the Dudley Boys. Royal Rumble. No, this wouldn't be it. Tables. Need to learn how to spell tables. Tables, ladders, and chairs. Edge and Christian versus the Dudley Boys. SmackDown 2000. It's still not the same thing. The Hardy Boys Insane Ladder Attacks. WWE Top 10. This was... Oh yeah, to win the title, they had to get up on top of a ladder and grab the titles and pull them down. It's just mad. I remember that match, the first ever Tables, Ladders, and Chairs match. It was chaos. Utter chaos. And I remember Jeff Hardy, after the fight, saying he'd completely smashed his elbow. After one of the stunts, he completely wrecked his elbow and he couldn't move it. It was shattered. But he still carried on. That part of wrestling is not fake. Being injured is not fake. Incredible. It's part of my childhood, so I used to get so excited every weekend to watch the highlights, the PG highlights on the weekends of Monday Night Raw and is it Friday Night SmackDown? I can't remember what day was SmackDown. Was it Friday Night SmackDown? Yeah, Friday Night SmackDown, 1999. And then it moved to a different day. I loved it. I'd wake up in the morning and watch the highlights to SmackDown. Wake up in the morning and watch the highlights to Monday Night Raw. And then an hour later, you'd have the highlights from the night before's SmackDown. For 2 hours, early morning, Sky 1 in the UK. Before everybody's awake, I'd watch the WWE. And as soon as I heard someone coming down those stairs, I'd change the channel back to Nickelodeon. I'd be watching, kids TV shows. They'd go back upstairs. I'd slap on Sky 1 again, watching more wrestling. I'd have to be really quick, Sneaky. Be really quick and sneaky. Some of the best wrestling, though. Again, I say Jim Ross was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And the amount of wrestlers that came forward saying, I would want nobody else commentating my match if it wasn't for Jim Ross. I want nobody else but him. The intros were what did it for me. And now, of course, you have the album. You have the WWE album. One of them is without a doubt the best of the best. And the Aggression album, which is sort of a more rap-related WWE music, which is really, really good. I used to have that, the Aggression album. WWE Superstars Perform at WrestleMania. If I could get away with playing this, I would. But if you want to listen to the WrestleMania song, it's there. On the WWE. So cool, man. Old school. Old school is the best school. So good. So good. Just going to load up Discord. One moment. WWE. Fantastic. Back in the day. Childhood. Crazy. Who were your favourite wrestlers? I keep saying this, I keep asking. But if you are listening, you are watching, join in the comments section. Would love to hear who you think was your best wrestler and why. Perhaps you had a matchup that you really enjoyed. Perhaps there was a rivalry you really enjoyed. Was there any heels, any baddies that you used to like? And you used to like because they were good at being bad. Triple H was good at being bad. Love him or hate him. I hated him. But I hated him because he was good. And he kept beating The Rock and Stone Cold and people like that. And that was annoying. But without a doubt, he has definitely been one of the best and most consistent wrestlers of all time. And you can't argue with him that you can't argue with the fact that as WWF is a business, he was always there. He was always in the running. He was always good. Not sure how much of that was motivated by the fact that he was married to the daughter of the owner, but in any case, interesting. So yeah, did you have any favorite commentators? I loved Jim Ross. Loved him. There was another commentator before Jim Ross who a lot of people said Jim Ross was a bit like. Did you have any favorite pay-per-views? Mine, Backlash, No Way Out. I loved the Royal Rumbles. Just seeing a ring full of people, it's fantastic. Didn't like Edge and Christian, but at the same time did like Edge and Christian. Didn't like the Hardy Boys, but at the same time you couldn't argue with them. They were very entertaining. The Dudley Boys, I didn't really care much about in general. I had no emotional bond to them. Mick Foley loved all of his characters. Mankind not so much, because he was a bit creepy and weird. But Cactus Jack and Mick Foley as a person, yeah, likable. But anyway, I think I'll call it there for this podcast. I have done this podcast twice. I did it for an hour and a half and things went wrong, so I restarted it. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Unfortunately, talking about wrestling on your own is a little bit difficult because I don't have anybody to discuss it with, but wrestling fans, the wrestling fans that I know are busy and have things to do and couldn't join in today. Perhaps we will revisit this wrestling podcast at another date because it would be good to pitter patter and banter with somebody who is still a fan or perhaps was a fan. It's nice to get it's nice to just spitball off of people and have conversations with individuals because of difference of opinions. If you are a wrestling fan, genuinely are a wrestling fan, and you're listening to this podcast and you would like us to redo this podcast at a later date and you would like to be involved, please reach out to me through Twitter. You can send me a direct message on Twitter. You can send me a direct message on Twitch if you have an account. We do have a Discord. All of these links are available on our link tree, and I will read out what our link tree link is, just so you can click on it. It is Linktree. That's LINKTR full stop EE / Daily Takeaway. So one last time, LINKTR full stop EE / Daily Takeaway, all as one word. That will take you to our link tree. Our link tree contained 7 links. We'll give you links to the Twitch, the TikTok, the Discord, YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, and Instagram. Some of those are used much more than others. For instance, the Twitter and Twitch are used all the time. Twitter to announce the stream, Twitch to watch the stream. If you want to take part, you can reach out to us more easily over Twitter. You can send us a tweet at daily_takeaway, or you can join the Discord completely free. You just need to download the Discord app on your computer or your phone and click on the link to join the community Discord. That will send you straight through and you'll become a member of that Discord. You can send me messages on there. I am usually online. So if you have any interest in talking about wrestling, we can do another podcast. If you have any interest in anything else that's not wrestling related, yesterday's episode was about let me just get it for you because I have, to tell you the truth, forgotten. Yesterday's episode, we had 2 yesterday. We had episode 8 was about UFOs. Episode 9 was about ghosts. We have many topics that we can talk about. We've discussed mental illness. We've discussed global warming, the weather, storms, gaming and electronic sport, racism. As I said, these conspiracies, UFOs, and ghosts. Ghosts was the second podcast from yesterday. If you want to take part in these podcasts, you are more than welcome. If you have a topic of conversation that you are very knowledgeable about and you would like to discuss that with me and discuss that with other viewers, have that uploaded onto YouTube, you're more than welcome to join me. The more the merrier. The more people, the more thoughts, the more opposing opinions, the more agreeable opinions. This is all good. So if you want to join in, you're more than welcome to. Click on the link tree and click on the links in there, and I will see you next time. We'll be live again tomorrow, 1 p.m. GMT, 8 a.m. Eastern Seaboard, 2 p.m. Central European Time. I think that's 3 p.m. 3 p.m. Eastern Europe, 9 p.m. Beijing, 10 p.m. Australia. So if you are awake at any of these times, feel free to join in, and I will speak to you tomorrow. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Take care. Have a lovely day.